Good things happen to those who work the hardest. Luck is created. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist at all, but you can create your own luck. And I'm hoping that young people will start realizing that in order to change what is taking place in this country, they must participate. And the United Workers' Party has created an opportunity for you to do just that. That the voice of every single member of our party counts. That it will be heard. That you hold the leadership of our party accountable every single day. Whilst you have to wait every 5 years to be able to elect a new government, in our party, every single year, you can elect new leadership. And if that leadership is not performing, then you change them. And there's nothing that tells in the Constitution that prohibits if a political party changes its leader, the new leader they appoint, as long as that person is a member of parliament, that person becomes the prime minister. And that is the power that we're talking about, of being involved and being engaged. And if you want change, then you have to participate. But the opportunity is there. The Caribbean is a great place. We're located under America, next to Europe, above Latin America. We have tremendous opportunity, and we've seen so many successful West Indians, but we now need to make sure that they are the recurring decimal, and they're not just the exemption. So it can't be that every now and then a West Indian succeeds. We're going to need to make it that more often, more West Indians succeed. We can't be scared of change. We know that the current structure that we have, it's not working. In fact, St. Lucia's needs have totally outgrown the existing structure that we have, which is no different than the United Workers' Party. So when I inherited the United Workers' Party, the organizational structure of the party was not in keeping with where we were in the 21st century. Our government's the same thing. And we have to change. In fact, we are required to change, because if we don't, it's going to be to our demise. We're already seeing what Jamaica has gone through, what Grenada has been going through, what St. Kitts has gone through with IMF programs. The day that you cannot pay your bills, the IMF comes in, and the IMF's remedy is heartless. All of a sudden, people who have bonds have to take a 50% pay cut in their bonds. And that's not the worst part. The worst part is the remaining 50% that you have, you're not allowed to touch it. Because it's not until they see if the solutions they've proposed are working, then you might get some of that money back. So in the case of Jamaica, they're down to 10%. So if you put in $100 in bonds, all it's worth today is $10. And not only the $10, but the earnings that you're getting off it is now 100% less than what you were earning before. So we have got to solve the problems. And how are we going to solve those problems? First of all, it cannot be the expense of some of the social programs. Healthcare is a basic human right. Education is a basic human right. Access to water and the need for infrastructure and safety. So we can't touch any of those things, but what we're going to have to do is to restructure some of them. One of the examples is healthcare. It cannot be that government is the insurer of people's healthcare. It's not going to work. What are we seeing right now? Government budgets about $110 million a year on healthcare. So it means they're trying to budget money for people getting sick. So once people get sick enough and use the facilities of the hospital in excess of the $110 million, the numbers don't add up. And what is happening is the quality of our healthcare continues to decline. Because in fact, the people who are supposed to be paying the hospitals are not, and the government can't afford to put any more in our hospitals. So we need to create a program in which every person in St. Lucia has access to healthcare, whether you're working in private businesses, whether you're working in government. The trick here is people who are unemployed and people who are elderly, the government has to find a way to be able to make the contribution to them. But the fact is, it is the only way that that's going to work. Once you've done that, we then can look at how we're managing the hospital, because the need becomes affordable, quality health care. That's what we need to know, is that people can have access to a quality health care on an affordable basis. Education. We've said that the curriculum is not changing. We have to find a way of restructuring the Ministry of Education and giving an independent body the ability to be able to determine what that curriculum is. And we have to be able to now see our education process become completely diversified. We've spoken about now creating centers of excellence in the areas of art, in the areas of technology, in the areas of sports, because all these things have to become a means to an end. Too many young people in our society are not getting access to tertiary level education. In fact, only 1/3 of them do. And that number may start dwindling because many households' incomes have been shrinking. So we have to find a way that we can get scholarships for young people, whether it's through sports and whether it's through the area of arts, or now sending people to technical schools, because not everybody wants to become a lawyer or a doctor. We believe IT centers. We had a fantastic program that we were doing with the cruise ship sector in terms of taking young people and getting them to work on the cruise ships. The benefit of that is they're getting paid a salary which they can make a contribution to back home, but now getting a skill set that once they finish working for the cruise lines for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, it is used internationally. Tourism is one of the fastest growing industries in the world. So these are some of the things that we're going to have to basically look at. The fundamental big thing is we have to restructure our taxes in this country. So we're going to simplify the process, reduce the burden of taxation, put more money in people's pockets, because we believe the most important thing is consumption. If you have consumption, small businesses start to grow. Banks know that they're going to start being paid. People then now can start buying homes again. And more importantly, salary levels start going up, and people now go from transitioning from jobs to being able to have jobs that now can become a career. That is fundamentally where our government is heading, is in terms of transforming the situation where people are just getting a job to survive versus having a job they can build a career on. That is what United Workers' Party stands for. I want change. I'm not happy with what we have. We'll never be happy with what we have. Do not profess that everything that we're proposing is going to work, but ultimately we will keep changing until we make it happen. I'm not going to use that excuse. When I was Minister of Tourism and Aviation, 6 months getting into office, Air Jamaica stopped operating and Caribbean Star stopped operating. Nobody heard me complain. Got on a plane, went to England, got British Airways to come in, went to New York, got JetBlue to come in, went to Canada, got WestJet to come in, got American Airlines to expand, got American Eagle to expand. Found solutions, not excuses. That's who Alan Chastanet is. And I believe a lot more people are starting to realize. When you look up at the stars at night, as many stars as you see, that's how many excuses you could make for not succeeding. It's the easiest thing to justify, not to succeed. But the people who always make it to the top are always the people who don't make those excuses. They're always the people that are willing to look deep into themselves and be honest with themselves. So in saying that regardless of how bad the government is, there are some people who are going to succeed. But the fact is that young people today have gotten so disenchanted with politics that you all hear them say the same thing. I'm not going to vote. Well, there is no such thing as not voting. Whoever everybody else voted for, that's who technically you voted for. And you've got to participate. But the frustration is if you don't become a member of a political party, if you're not going to be active, and you don't learn what democracy is. And democracy is consensus. Is sometimes you're in a room and you put out your arguments and they may be very well done, but the majority of the people in the room don't support it. Democracy is you go with the majority. And it's over time that people then start getting more confidence in you if in fact you voted against something and it turns out that you were right. The next time something comes up, people are going to sway to your argument. And what I'm trying to say to young people is you need to take control of your own destiny. You can't sit there and think that by accident it's going to happen, or by doing nothing that something is going to get resolved. You must have a passion in you to be different. You must have a passion in you for excellence. And it's that greatness in you that ultimately will make the country great. I don't believe in any other way. I don't think that things happen by chance. I'm known for tourism. You know, everybody who hears Alan Chastanet, whether it's in St. Lucia or whether in the region, that's the tourism guru, etc. And that was working against me a bit, because a lot of people believe that if I became Prime Minister, that I would be tourism-centric. And I think that in order to bring some balance and some reality and show people that, yes, I am very good at tourism, but I have a passion for agriculture, I have a passion for the South, that Micoud South fits that bill. Because Micoud South is primarily an agricultural constituency, and it's a constituency that depends heavily on the South. When I was growing up, my father always told me that the one thing that people cannot take away from you is your education and your experience. And I really always hung on to that. So I started working at the age of 15. So every summer, every Christmas, every Easter break, I always worked. Later, when I became university, I worked again all throughout my summers. And every year it was a different experience. So whether it was being a messenger, whether it was working administration in the office, whether it was working on one of my father's ships. And whenever I got to go in to work with my father, it was never as the son of the father. It was always at the bottom. He always believed that you had to start at the bottom. So I mean, I remember carrying bags of cement, cleaning out hatches, working in the oil room, traveling, carrying paychecks, negotiating freight rates, all those things. And I say that to say that I think that a lot of young people today sometimes have a greater expectation. And it's almost like from the day you get started, you want to be able to get paid. And what I say to a lot of younger people is that to differentiate yourself, to be able to step up the ladder faster, sometimes when you volunteer to do jobs, because you may not get paid, but now all of a sudden you have the experience. So when you're now trying to get a job with somebody who's the same age as you, comes from the same background as you do, you've already had that advantage of having some experience. It's not about some, it's not about most. Everybody has to benefit. When we talk about 3% economic growth rate, it can't be just that number. We must show that salaries have gone up, more people are employed, more opportunities for businesses have been created, that we have better social services than we had before. So that's what it means, is as a political party, we must recognize that when we talk about benefits for all, it means that socially, economically, and politically, those three must work in tandem in order for us to be able to be sustainable. The moment that politicians believe that they are more important than the voter, it falls down. The moment that we believe that we can buy the support of voters at the expense of the economy by using more money for social programs, it's not sustainable. And if you grow the economy and you're not concerned about what's taking place socially and don't understand what's taking place politically, so if a political party says, let's continue to grow the economy, believe in the trickle-down theory, and the trickle-down never happens, it's not sustainable. So I think as a party, we're starting to recognize that we need to take a step back. So our party is generally a center-right party. And generally you don't hear center-right parties talking about healthcare and education first. But we believe as a party that those are basic human rights. The right to have quality, affordable healthcare and a globally competitive education is a human right. And it must start from there. You cannot have any process in which it undermines those two things. Can't undermine security. Security is another basic human right that people have. The right to be able to have a shelter, water, and food. Those are basic human rights. And we as a party put those up the highest. We start with that. Nothing can infringe on the availability of any one of those things or come at the expense of the individual solutions. So that is what we really truly believe as a party. That's what motivates us every single day. That's what we advocate for. That's what we're prepared to fight for. And it's then finding the balance to make sure that we can bring those things to the highest level to all solutions. I've participated in cabinets, and other people have participated in cabinets where sometimes, not always, but sometimes decisions are made not by a collective group, but is made by the leader. And I'm not saying that any leader should not have that prerogative, but I think the leader should be using that prerogative as least possible that it could, because I think decisions that are made on a collective basis are substantially better in moving forward. The fundamental thing with the Labour government is that there are actually no actions or deeds to support anything that they're saying. So when they talked about better days and jobs, it never happened because they were never focused on making it happen. The Prime Minister, when he was in opposition, said that VAT was the worst form of tax that it could happen, and that it would be to the detriment to the people of St. Lucia. Yet, he imposed it. When we were going through the recession and the civil servants wanted a 14.5% pay increase, the Prime Minister now, when he was in opposition, marched with those same people, demanding that they be paid the 14.5%, despite the fact that he'd only paid them 1% increase in the 10 previous years that he was in office. But then when he got into office, he immediately imposed VAT at 15%. So it means they've gone back to zero. And not too long afterwards, he was proposing that they get a 5% pay cut. So this is the kind of inconsistency. This is a gentleman who only plays politics. He doesn't have a very clear vision as to where he wants to be able to take this country. And since he's been in, and if we can go back to 1997, he inherited a debt to GDP of 35%. We only had $400 million in debt. By 2006, we'd increased that debt to close to $1.5 billion. And we only grew by an average of 1.5% per year at a time when the world grew at its fastest pace. In the last 5 years, he's been borrowing money to the tune of $200 million a year. And I think that, the numbers that really speak very loudly as to how ineffective he has been is that in 2011, we were spending $100 million a year in interest payments. As we speak now, it's $165 million. And it's projected that next year, it's going to go to $185 million. So he's almost doubled the payments for interest. And the significance of that is it means that interest payments are going to be higher than what we spend on education or spend on healthcare. It's not sustainable. He's done nothing to grow the economy. He believes that the public sector should be doing everything, and that regardless of what his expenditure is, that he's entitled to money. He doesn't know how to earn money. And the difference is that he keeps spending and he just keeps taxing. Versus if somebody wants to increase expenditure and at the same time wants to be able to increase government revenues, it means that you must grow the economy to do that. Because it's a very fragile ecosystem, the economy out there. And the moment you create any forms of imbalances, it comes crumbling down. So when I was able to convince Sir John Compton to increase the tourism budget from $25 million to $50 million a year, so over the 5 years, $125 million more we spent on tourism, but we generated $3 billion in earnings. Dr. Anthony's come back into office, has kept the budget at the $50 million. So it means he has spent, again, the same $125 million more in revenue, and he's only been able to increase total revenue by just over $1 billion. So it's not the same thing. And so he's a person that has never been able to deliver on growing the economy, solving the social problems. He's only able to talk about it. He's never able to do anything about it. I really want to see that the economy has doubled in size. Right now, $1 billion for GDP is just not going to cut it. Barbados with 100,000 more people is $4.4 billion in GDP. Bahamas with 200,000 more people than St. Lucia is 8.8 billion, 8 times the size of us. And Aruba, which is 110,000 people, is at $3.3 billion. So in 10 years, I want to see at least a doubling, if not more, of the number of hotel rooms that we have. I believe that the number that we need to be striving for is somewhere between 10 and 12,000. We're at 3,500 right now. I want to see a vibrant agricultural sector. I want to see literally every piece of land that we have, that we're leasing it out at cheap rates to young people who want to be able to be entrepreneurial and grow stuff. And I want to know that they're not taking that risk, that they're going to get contracts. And then we're not only producing food for St. Lucia, but we're actually exporting to the other parts of the region. I want to see us now get into agro-processing and develop specialty areas that we can focus on, and those skill sets exist. I want to see us being successful in sports, particularly in football. I'm totally disappointed and embarrassed knowing the talent that we have here, that St. Lucia is ranked less than 135th in the world. We want to see that change fundamentally. I want to see from 1/3 of the young people getting scholarship to going to tertiary level schools, I want to see at least 50% or more of young people being able to go to university. So I want people to start recognizing St. Lucia as a place of excellence. I want for us to be the best place to live, the best place to work, the best place to visit. And I honestly believe that if we work together collectively, if we stay committed to that cause, and we focus on making sure that the benefits derive to everyone in this country, and we put aside petty politics, we put aside hatred, and we focus on what the real issues are, we can accomplish this. In fact, I know that we will accomplish this. I will not allow the procrastination of the OACS and CARICOM to prevent St. Lucia from achieving what it has to be done. So we're going to do it with or without their support. So I believe with OACS and with CARICOM, the road forward could be substantially easier. We must see that there is an improvement in the productivity of our government, or a lessening of the cost of our government, or idealistically, both. Area of security. Why can't we have one security chief for the OACS? Why can't we see that senior police officers are rotating? Why can't we see one forensic lab for the region? Why can't we see a database for that taking place? So that immediately would create an immediate impact in terms of the area of security. We've seen that we've been sharing on the purchasing of medicine. We need to see that hospitals in each countries are going to specialize in other areas. We need to make it cheaper for people to be able to travel between the islands to be able to get that medical service. We need to see that we have dorms set up, that when people go there, that they can afford to stay in that country. But that is going to resound to the benefit of all of us. In fact, if we can agree as an OACS to have a health insurance program, the more people that come into the program, the cheaper and more sustainable it becomes over a period of time. In the areas of education, we should be having the same curriculum. We should be investing in making sure that kids don't have to buy school books anymore, that their curriculum can be on tablets, and that we can start rotating teachers around, that we can start making sure that we're paying our teachers well, and that we're now getting the experience of all of them. Earlier on, when I was younger, how many sports teams used to travel in between the region? How many exchange students we used to do? Now, because of the cost of traveling, we don't do it anymore. We know less about ourselves than we know about people in Miami or in New York or in Toronto or London. So that has to change, and that can change if we have proper regional integration. So those are some low-lying fruits in my mind that we can achieve. But if in fact heads of governments and other countries are not prepared to make the difficult decisions in making those things happen, because I'm not talking about political integration, but I am talking about functional cooperation. And if those institutions cannot yield those minimum results to us, then we have to set it aside until we're ready. But I cannot continue justifying taxpayers' monies being used to fly people to meetings that don't produce anything. I can't justify maintaining headquarters offices all over the place if in fact it's not going to resound to the benefit of the taxpayers. I believe we can make those things happen, but it's not going to be an excuse that my government would use in achieving our own lofty goals that we've set for ourselves. I'm not coming into politics for money. I'm coming into politics to make a change in people's lives.